most of my work is on violins. I also do service violas and cellos and basses. So this guy moved to Kentucky from California and had his bass stored for a while, right?
Oh, wow.
And that's what happened. The tension on the strings, which I've got slacked now,
Yeah.
it pulled apart at the block. And then because of this pull forward,
Yeah.
it's cracking the belly
Oh.
here, and there's a crack running here. And I think that's a former crack that has not succumbed to the pressure. But so this is the kind of thing that sometimes comes to me.
Yeah.
Usually basses, different instruments have different ranges of problems.
Yeah.
Very common for basses to get bumped when they're being carried around because they're so big, and fracture across the heel, or have neck issues. And I've done a lot of that sort of repair and restoration. Usually it's just a matter of the edge work coming loose. People take their basses out to a bluegrass festival or whatever, and they're in the heat and the glue gets weak, that sort of thing. Tonal adjustments on any instrument I get asked to do, but the structural sorts of things for a bass, that's major work there.
Yeah. What sort of wood was that bass?
It's the same array. You typically have maple in the back and sides and spruce for the belly, but there's a huge presence of laminated basses, which are like plywood.
Yeah.
Backs and tops, and that one is probably laminated for the back and the ribs, but the belly is solid spruce. Okay. Which is why it cracked the way that it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of the stress that it was under. So there's different kinds of instruments, and I'll show you this. This one is actually mine. This is a mandolin, Gibson mandolin from 1904 that I bought from Mr. Miller when I first met him, and played it for quite a number of years, and then it came apart where it had been broken here around the neck and been repaired, and it came apart again and cracked from the pressure up the top, similarly the way this bass did over here.
Yeah.
Well, I repaired it, this crack up through here, with these cleats a number of years ago, and then it was just sitting on the stand one day, and I heard a big loud pop, and the whole thing had caved in, and so I've had to go through. I took my old cleats out up in the upper end, and I've put new cleats here that are a little sturdier and longer, and had an additional crack to cleat here for the belly. And from 1904 to 2012, we're gonna have this instrument back up and playing again because I miss it. But it's but mandolin repairs, wood repair, and an eye to the pressures that a piece of wood is under, structural repairs, are pretty similar instrument to instrument, but you do get some variations in wood, and this one has walnut ribs and walnut back, which is actually sitting over here, which I'll put back on when it's time. But so I do some other guitar, mandolin, banjo work, setup, that sort of thing. Because violin family instruments don't have frets, then I don't do much in the way of fret work.
Okay.
There are other specialists in guitar and mandolin, kind of cover that territory, and I'm happy to let them have it. But as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But so there are different kinds of instruments that I work on that are usually matters of damage.
Yeah.
And addressing that grafting. I had a Martin guitar, a D28, that had been kicked or something, and it had just a big hole in the back. And I found some really good matching rosewood and grafted a piece in.
Yeah.
So I get that sort of work. As far as violins, there are instruments that are fancy. Like this was probably made Belgian, maybe.
That has a lovely color.
Isn't that neat? And it's got a wonderful craquelure in the varnish, which some would like and some would not, but I think it looks really great. But that sort of roping around the outside, that's a pretty neat instrument.
Yeah.
This is not the nicest instrument that I've got, but this is Germanic. This one is French made, but it's a French kind of sort of factory produce instrument. from kind of turn of the century
Yeah.
and or a little before. The French tend to make better instruments. Their factory instruments are better than German factory instruments, typically on a par.
Yeah.
At least the low end of what the French would do wasn't as low as the German and Czechoslovakian factories would descend to.
Yeah.
And they would tend to cut corners in different ways
Yeah.
that preserved better quality in the instrument overall. But what else have I got in terms of range of instruments? I do have. Oh, this is a neat old instrument right here. I don't know what this is, but it's got the most amazing bird's eye maple back, little speckles all over it.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a piece of bird's eye maple with so many little bird's eyes. It's just incredible.
Now, where did you come across
Well,
that?
this is a repair for somebody,
Okay.
and the person who owns it bought the instrument, and it had this neck in it, right here. Which once you take the neck off, it's marked on the underside of the fingerboard, French, late 18th century. And that's right. This is a very French scroll from late 1800s, and this is a continental European instrument. It's probably German of some sort, but it's very, very nice.
Uh-huh.
These two don't go together. Stylistically, they're a horrible mismatch.
Yeah.
So I am actually carving a scroll, and I will graft it to replicate, because this violin's 1700.
Yeah.
1700, 1750. It's very, very old. And so I'll try and replicate a style of scroll that will be suitable for it,
Okay.
and have it grafted so it looks like it's that age. And anyone that knows violins will look at it and say, well, that's a replacement neck, but hopefully they'll say, but what a darn good job he did.
Yeah.
So that's at least what we're shooting for
That's right.
with that. And then, one thing that does happen here, while I'm on these instruments that are tucked into this little cubby over here, this violin was made in Ohio in 1880s. The name of Lovejoy, if I remember right. Yeah, in Columbus, Ohio, 1889. And so I'm restoring it. Occasionally I get an instrument like that that's pretty nicely made. It's a good violin making culture in Ohio, because the German settlement in Cincinnati sometimes brought luthiers to the area. And this one's actually made pretty nicely. Some pretty good quality to it. So this would be an interesting American-made violin
Yeah.
to bring back to life.